Good morning, folks. Good morning. So, if you're watching me for the first time, my name is Charles Firecat Burnell. I am a transgender artist, author, and spiritualist. I write about a lot of different things, and a lot of different things affect my artwork. Today, I want to share with you a story about something that happened to me recently. And I want to talk about the pandemic. What have we as a society learned, and as individuals, from the experience of the last few years? And I really would love to hear if anybody has any comments to pop in, and you want to comment and share your opinion, and even if you'd like to pop in as a guest, a multi-guest, I'd be happy to have other people join the conversation that way. So just send me a request if you want to do that. In the meantime, I want to share this little story. So, as some of you may or may not know about me, I have continued to wear masks the whole time. In the last few years, during the influx when the CDC says, no, you don't have to, or you do, or you don't, whether the local governments have said, yes, you do, or no, you don't, I haven't wavered. I've continued to wear a mask in public spaces, indoors, consistently the whole time. Because, initially it was because I thought it was going to protect me, and I didn't like being sick, and I was pleased that for over a year, almost 2 years straight, I didn't get sick with anything. And so I thought, the mask is helping me. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to set that aside, that opinion, because I've learned past that since then. So there's a little neighborhood market in our area. I'm in Norman, Oklahoma, and we have the University of Oklahoma in Norman here, the campus, and I like to support small business. I prefer to support small business over corporations whenever possible. And so I go to this little market for my gas and stuff, even though it's a little more expensive, because I figure you can't keep from supporting the fuel corporations, but at least you can choose who you buy your gas from. So I go there, and I had stopped in for something at the market a couple days ago. And they have had a sign up on their door asking people to wear masks for a long time. Long after the city mandate was expired, they continue to have their sign up. And their employees have continued to wear masks. And that made me feel good. I'll go into that later. That's another sidebar. So I went in there the other day. The employees are still wearing masks, and after I finished paying for my purchase, right before I left, I took a moment to thank them, because it means a lot to me that they're continuing to wear masks. I feel like that's a really conscientious way to participate in community, and I appreciate it, because most of the businesses aren't doing that anymore, at least here. And so I took a moment to thank the woman behind the counter for continuing to wear a mask. I was thanking her for her kindness. She responded by going on this tirade that basically, how do I put this? Basically insisting that she wasn't doing it for anyone but herself, clearly, brazenly broadcasting her ignorance, and making it clear that she was offended by the fact that I would insinuate that she would do anything that was conscientious or kind for someone else. I was absolutely blown away. So I want to go back. Yeah, wow. So I want to go back to the question, what have we learned from the pandemic? Because the way that I emotionally reacted to that situation was so strong. Honestly, I'm having second thoughts of seriously considering whether I'm not going to support that business anymore. And I have supported them for 10 years, even when it wasn't the cheapest alternative, because I am the type of person, as a matter of principle, whenever I can afford to do so, if given the option, I will shop at a small business before I will shop at a corporation. It's just the way that I function. And yeah, a smack in the face. It was really, I almost retaliated and went back off on her, but instead I just said, I was just trying to give you a compliment. Have a good day. And I left. Really shocked though. Yeah, it was a smack in the face. So, here's the thing. I want to go back to what have we learned. There are some things that we have learned in the last few years. It's information that maybe we should have known. Yeah, but it all comes down to people. You need to be kind, exactly. There are some things that we, as a society overall, should have grasped now as common knowledge that maybe wasn't common knowledge before. It was knowledge to those who were educated in those particular fields, but other than that, I think most people weren't really aware of how we transmit so much through speaking, through our mouths. The germs that we carry in our mouths, right? I don't think people really fully understood how much we transmit and how that works. And people in the scientific or the medical, biological academics, perhaps they understood clearly. But for the rest of us, we were probably operating under the assumption that as long as you feel okay, everything's fine. You only have to separate yourself from people when you're sick, and even then just cough into your elbow and everything's fine, right? Well, I feel like as a society, as a species, this experience from the pandemic should have taught us at least that that's a fallacy, and that we are carrying germs in our bodies all the time, and we have the capacity to share them with anyone around us, and even if they're not affecting us, they may affect the people around us, and that we need to be conscientious of that. Because it can make a huge difference, a huge impact. That's one thing. Another thing that we have learned, or we should have learned, over the course of the pandemic, is that when people get sick, it has a direct impact on how effectively our economy functions. Right? I mean, that seems like something that maybe economists or statisticians might have been aware of before, but now it should be common knowledge, right? I think maybe we've overlooked that as well. The lesson of the importance of being able to call in sick. If you are not feeling well, you should not be expected to go to work. In fact, you should not be allowed to go to work. You should be paid to stay home. You should not be financially punished or subject to the additional burdens and stresses that would otherwise encourage you to go and share your germs with the world, right? That is in terms of, a public service, we have a responsibility if we want our communities, our economies, our families, everyone. If we want people to continue to thrive and be in the classroom to provide services to our students, or be in the drive-through window to give you a burger on the way home, whatever it is, I think at this point, we should have made the connection that in order for all of those systems to continue functioning, people have to be actively participating in them. And in order for people to actively be participating in them, they need to be healthy, right? And I feel like we almost got it for a second, and then people got tired and just decided to stop paying attention to that. How can you unlearn something so incredibly vital to your very existence? I'm really having a hard time with this. So, going back to the masks, and initially at the beginning of me talking, I said when I first started wearing the mask consistently, it's because I thought it was keeping me healthier. Another thing that we have learned through the ups and downs of this pandemic is that some things are bigger than others. Some things are smaller than others. When you're wearing a mask, you're mostly keeping your micro droplets from spreading to other people. Now, with something that has a larger droplet, maybe it can keep you from inhaling it as well. We've learned that COVID is so incredibly small that it can get through those masks. So wearing a mask doesn't keep you from getting COVID, right? But it keeps you from giving it to somebody else. Getting a vaccination can either keep you from getting COVID or extremely reduce the effects of COVID when you get it. It will not keep you from spreading it to somebody else. So, one or the other, masks or vaccines, one doesn't do it. What we should have learned as a society is that you have to have both, right? So that means that vaccines protect you from other people, and masks protect other people from you. So the combination of the two, consistently being applied, makes a huge difference. So as soon as people stopped wearing masks, the numbers started going back up. But everybody's so burnt out they don't want to do it anymore. I don't understand why. Going back to the other things that we should have learned from as a society from the pandemic, why don't you care about the greater society? I mean, you want us to all go back to normal, so why would you all of a sudden decide that it's again okay to go back and spread your germs? Why are people again being forced to go back to work when they're sick? Why are people again being financially penalized if they do call in sick? I'm trying to wrap my brain around why we haven't learned the necessary lessons from this. Another thing, something that hasn't been talked about as much, but should be talked about more, is the intersection of climate change and the pandemics. This is something that I paid careful attention to, especially during the earlier part of the pandemic, listening to articles and reading articles specifically where subject matter experts were talking about climate change and the intersection with superviruses. Ultimately, what has happened, and this is something, again, that we as a global community really need to get. Because of climate change, the overall temperature of the planet is higher. We are now living in a climate where superviruses can thrive, where a couple degrees lower, they couldn't. Which means there are going to be more. And as the ice melts and other things come out of thaw, more things are going to be entering our environment that our bodies are not used to or prepared for. If we continue to wear masks, we are continuing to protect each other mutually from things that we may not even know about. COVID is not the last thing. we are going to get more diseases. Whether you are a religious person and you believe in the plagues coming, or whether you're a scientific person and you're paying attention to the scientific details, or you're simply a pragmatic person who would like to survive, I do not understand where in any of those levels, on those playing fields, you could not grasp that we have to continue to protect ourselves and each other, because we are living in an environment where super viruses can thrive, and we don't know everything. So you have to be cautious. So all that is running around in my head when this woman goes on a tirade at me for complimenting her for doing something nice for the community. I said thank you for continuing to wear a mask. I did so while wearing a mask. She was wearing a mask. She was behind the counter in a business. I was a customer. I said thank you very much for continuing to wear a mask. It really shows me that you appreciate your customers. She got pissed at me. Really mad. She was offended. Like, I clumped her in this group of terrible people, like I had just called her a terrible name and accused her of doing something horrible. Really dumbfounded by it. Really puzzled. And I really don't understand why more people aren't still wearing masks. A family member recently took a trip on the airplane to visit another family member on the other side of the country. When she returned, we picked her up from the airport. She is elderly. She is in her 80s. Her health is important to her. She has not gotten COVID. She is fully vaccinated, and she is still nervous about it. She wore a mask the whole time. She said very few people in the entire experience going through the airports were wearing masks, and everyone that saw her with a mask looked at her very oddly and interacted with her very oddly, as if she was standing out doing something wrong. This doesn't make any sense to me. We are having the opposite reaction. We are not learning anything. Why? I would really like to see your comments. I am going to post this entire live session on my YouTube page. If you missed any part of it and you'd like to see the whole thing, I'm going to encourage people as well, please, when it's on YouTube, to go ahead and comment below. I would really love to hear other people's stories and thoughts. What have you learned from the pandemic? What do you think that we should have learned that we didn't learn from the pandemic? And, I guess the biggest thing that I've learned from the pandemic, and I really wish I hadn't, is that I can't trust as many people as I thought I could. I'm not as safe as I thought I was. And that hurts. So, I'm going to stop there. I hope y'all have a great day. This has been bouncing around in my head ever since that woman said that, and it really hit me hard, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it because this seems really important to me. I'm just having a hard time understanding why it doesn't seem important to other people. Hope you guys have a great day.